Welcome back to Tuesdays with Timeless. I'm Dr. Stephanie Christian. It's May, and it's Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So each week, I'm addressing various questions about sunscreen. This week, I'm talking about reef safety with sunscreens. Why is this important? Well, the coral reefs are some of the most biodiverse and bioproductive ecosystems on the planet. And we're all interrelated. The coral reefs provide protein food, both animal and plant-based, to 500 million people every day. So the death of coral reefs has a significant impact on the world. Coral gets its beautiful color range from algae, a symbiotic algae that live and provide nutrients to the coral through photosynthesis. Back in the 80s, people started noticing that coral around the world was having a bleaching effect, and they didn't know what it was really from. And between the 80s and the early 2000s, there were a lot of theories because there were a lot of things happening to our climate. In 2006, a group of scientists in Italy found a connection between one of the chemical ingredients in sunscreen, oxybenzone, and the bleaching of coral reefs, or the loss of the algae. When the algae either dies or leaves a coral reef, the coral loses its beautiful color and is left sort of as a skeletal unit. That finding was reinforced in 2016 by a much larger and international group of scientists, including American scientists from the American Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And they found that not only did oxybenzone cause coral reef bleaching, but so did octinoxate, another very common chemical ingredient in sunscreens. And not only did these two ingredients cause bleaching or the loss of the algae, which gives coral reefs its color, but they were actually causing harm to the coral itself. They were causing DNA damage, and they were causing structural damage of the coral itself. So since then, there's been a lot of study worldwide about ingredients in sunscreens and what they do to coral reefs. And we do actually have a list of toxic sunscreen ingredients. Now, anyone who knows me or has talked to me knows that I really like evidence. I want to see studies, and preferably good studies, that show a result. So we have excellent studies with good results that show that oxybenzone and octinoxate are toxic to coral reefs. We also have some data, moderate data, that shows that octocrylene is toxic to the reefs, that parabens, both methylparaben and butylparaben, are toxic to reefs. And here's a doozy. It's 4 MBIC. So it's 4 methylbutylidinecamphor. So there are a lot of groups that have lists of toxic ingredients. But unfortunately, some of them are lobbying groups. And so it's not always science that's supporting it. And on the lists that are not based on science, sometimes what you'll find is nanoparticles of either zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. And I couldn't find any evidence anywhere that nanoparticles of zinc oxide cause damage to coral reefs. I couldn't find any evidence. Now, there was one study done with nanoparticles of titanium dioxide where they acidified the ocean water, and then they got more of the sunscreen coming off of the test subject's hand, and they got damage to the test coral. But that isn't reality, because the oceans aren't being acidified. The hypothesis was that if global warming continues to get worse and the oceans are acidified, then nanoparticles of titanium dioxide will be a problem. And what a number of lobby groups took away from that was they chose words, and from that said that nanoparticles of titanium dioxide are toxic. That is not what that study said. In the current situation of the planet, nanoparticles of titanium dioxide are not toxic. It's why it's best to be intellectually curious and to do your own due diligence and to read and to know where you're getting your information. So, why are these ingredients even in our sunscreens if they're toxic? Well, they got there because they provide UVA protection. And titanium dioxide does not provide UVA protection. So any sunscreen that's made with primarily titanium dioxide has to have something added into it to provide the UVA protection, because titanium dioxide gives great UVB protection, but it needs something else in with it. But what do I always say? Zinc. Use zinc. Zinc gives you great UVA and UVB protection, and then you don't need a chemical sunscreen in there with it. And we have no evidence that micronized zinc oxide is toxic for anything. And let me just add in here also, there are lots of lobby groups that say that micronized zinc or micronized titanium dioxide is toxic to the human body. That's not true. There is no evidence whatsoever that nanoparticles of zinc or titanium dioxide penetrate deeper than the skin and get into the bloodstream and get into any organs in the body. So it is highly unlikely that they're causing any damage to the body, since they can't get deeper than the skin. Okay, so back to the original topic. How to pick a reef-safe sunscreen. First, check the label for the toxic ingredients. So I'm going to give you that list in the copy that goes along with this video. Second, if the sunscreen says reef safe, disregard that label. There is no definition about what reef safe means, so companies are allowed to say reef safe even if they have toxic ingredients in them. It is a meaningless label. 3, water resistant is actually a pretty good quality to have in your sunscreen. If it's water resistant, then bits and pieces of that sunscreen are less likely to come off of your skin and cause harm to any kind of flora or fauna in the water. So you do want water resistant sunscreen. Water resistance tends to be in 40 or 80 minute quantitative blocks. And it's not only good for the water, but it's also good for you, because if you're going to be in the water, either on, in, or under the water, you do want protection while you're there. 3, ocean safe. Ocean safe does not mean reef safe. Once again, there is no defined definition for what reef safe means. So when it says ocean safe, it does not mean that that sunscreen is safe for coral reefs. Most of the time, what they mean by ocean safe, which is really a meaningless label, is that it's water resistant. In general, choose mineral. which is physical. It means that it's going to act like a mirror. The UVA rays hit it and bounce off, rather than chemical. Chemical meaning that you rub it in and then it has to set up a chemical interaction with the skin. It takes about 30 minutes to set up that chemical interaction, and then the chemical interaction burns itself out after about 2 hours. Okay, so I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, please comment below, and I will answer it. Otherwise, have a great week. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you next week.